Hi and welcome. My name is Victoria Bedford and I am a holistic spiritual therapist. Who am I? Well, first of all, I started out as a medium and then a tarot reader. And then as my journey progressed, I was led on a journey of self-realization and learning self-actualization, leading me to want to continually heal my pain, my traumas, and the things that I went through. And when I say heal my pain and my traumas, that does not mean heal meaning they never happened. It means looking to understand the behaviours that I adopted and developed from that pain. Now, I find these videos extremely hard, and I'm not going to lie to you. I'm stepping out my comfort zone. I'm doing something that I'm not used to. And I continually get this irritable feeling, or this feeling that I need to clean my throat and cough and get it out because the energy in me is stepping into the unknown. But I know that the meaning of why I'm doing this is greater than the uncomfortable feeling I'm feeling. And for me to grow, I have to face that feeling. I have to allow that feeling to sit within me, but still do it anyway. So today I'm going to be bringing to you a short video and understanding around a behaviour that keeps us stuck along our healing process. This is a behaviour that I struggled with hugely and sometimes still struggle with now, but also it's a behaviour that I've noticed a lot within the clients that I'm working with in my spiritual coaching sessions. So welcome. What is the behaviour that I see repetitively with others as well as myself? It's a behaviour labelled under psychology terms as justification. Our brain, our mind, our ego, our body wants us to stay comfortable. And for us to stay comfortable, we have to do the things that we are used to doing. And that means not doing something we're not used to doing, not feeling uncomfortable feelings from the unknown, not making changes, not changing or making a different choice. So how justification comes in that is, well, we justify so many reasons of why we can't. And that comes from our ego, from our sense of, the ego is a sense of self that wants to protect us, wants to protect you from your wounds. Many people who have been through wounds where they felt they had no control become somebody who seeks so much control. You see, our brain wants to protect us. It wants to keep things safe because there is a part of you that has not felt safe either in your childhood or in a part of your life. When I was working through my own healing, I would justify a lot of reasons as to why things weren't different. And when we justify these reasons, they are ultimately true. They feel like valid justifications. They feel like the real reason why we can't grow. And I'll give you some instances of what justifications are. For me, when I was suffering mental health and I was emotionally unregulated, justifying that that was just who I was meant that I didn't necessarily need to take my thought processes a step further and look at why. Why was I emotionally unregulated? By justifying it, I was able to just keep doing it because that's just who I was. Well, my dad was like that, so I was able to look at it in a little bit of a different way. My dad was like that, and that's what I've learned, and you just have to accept it. I don't know how to deal with things. But that justification was keeping me safe from having to make a change, safe from facing uncomfortable feelings that I needed to change something. But it wasn't keeping me safe from building loving connections. Because what was happening, it wasn't keeping me safe from losing loving connections. It wasn't keeping me safe from self-sabotaging myself. That justification was allowing me to continue an unhealthy behaviour because I was too scared to look at where that unhealthy behaviour come from and try and change it. and I was more comfortable with the unhealthy behaviour. Now, to change anything, you have to be so uncomfortable with the uncomfortable behaviour, or so uncomfortable with that used to behaviour, that you have to be willing and ready to step into knowing something has to change. Other ways we justify is when we get into an argument with somebody because somebody's hurt us. We will shout back. We will cut them out of our lives. We will be rude. We will talk about them behind our back, and we will justify that because we will say, well, they deserved it. We will justify it because we say, well, they hurt us. But that's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. You're holding on to the energy of hate and anger through justification of why you should feel that hate and anger. But if you validated that hate and that anger and that sadness and the ultimate underlying foundational feeling of what you probably feel, which is hurt, rejected, you would be able to realise that there was something you could do about it through healing and knowledge. And that something is you can communicate healthier how you feel. You could realise that just because somebody hurts us does not mean we have to hurt them back. That comes from an inability to face pain. When we face pain of what someone's done to us, we can feel that anger, we can validate it. We can feel that sadness and validate it. We could recognise through healing that by hating that other person, we're not processing the feelings and we're not able to release them, meaning they are going to continue to affect us. Justification happens in many ways. We try to justify why we can't do something, but we also try to justify why something the way it is so that we don't have to look at the uncomfortable feelings that come with it. We quite often justify why we should not understand or have compassion for a child of ours because we are scared to face the uncomfortable feelings of maybe deep down we might fear that we've let them down. Maybe deep down we fear that we haven't got the relationship with them that we want, and instead of feeling those uncomfortable feelings, we justify that they're just a nasty piece of work or that they are a certain way. But what it means is, it doesn't mean that we are a bad person, a bad mother, a bad father. It means that we are holding on to emotions and feelings that we don't know how to feel. So we're justifying why we shouldn't feel them and why it's somebody else. We justify a lot. We shut down and walk out of people's lives and we justify it's because they hurt us. But everyone has the potential to hurt everybody. And when we justify unhealthy coping mechanisms such as shutting down or getting angry, we are justifying something so that we don't have to face it and realise it needs to change. That we don't necessarily have to walk out of everyone's life. We can just change how we deal with that. Feel it. Change how we emotionally face it. Change how we emotionally get angry about it, but still validating the anger. Justifications happen in so many ranges. I remember I suffer from pain within my body and feeling different sensations, and when I do any kind of exercise it really hurts, so I used to justify that I couldn't do any kind of exercise even though I wanted to lose a bit of weight because it was going to hurt. Because it was going to hurt. Because guess what, even if I didn't suffer pain, even if I didn't suffer chronic fatigue, when you are doing something that's new, when you are changing your body in some way, it's always going to hurt, whether that's physical, mental or emotionally, it's going to hurt. But I was so afraid of feeling that pain. Instead of recognising maybe I pushed myself too much initially, I should just slow it down or do a nice walk. I justified why I couldn't do any of it because I wanted to avoid something. Justification is often something we do to avoid. And I'm going to be honest with you when I say, when we justify things to ourselves, it means we can lack compassion for ourselves and others. It means we don't step out into doing new things. It means Old behaviours won't be changed because that justification is saying to us, well, it doesn't need to change. Or it's too uncomfortable to change. But what really happens is you continue the same way, which makes you unhappy anyway. Especially in psychology, justification stops people from challenging their thoughts, challenging their emotions and their behaviours. It's easy for us to blame everyone else for the things that they are doing. I know this because it was me. I blamed my parents for the trauma they inflicted on me. I blamed my children's dad for how poor I felt he was as a father. I blamed my friends for the fact that I didn't feel like they were bothering enough. I blamed the person who pulled out on me. And I justified all my anger in all these different directions because guess what? It was their fault. He was a poor father. It was the man's fault who pulled in front of me because he did pull out in front of me. It was my parents' fault. They did do this, but it wasn't helping me. It wasn't helping me changing the behaviours that I'd learned from those wounds. I'd learned from my parents' anger, hostility, violence, addictions. Well, I could blame my parents and justify all day long where they come from. But if I didn't take accountability from the fact that they needed to heal and they were uncomfortable, I wasn't going to change. I could justify all day long that my children's dad walked out on their life and didn't want to bother with them. And actually, he's the reason why they're struggling sometimes. Or I could recognise, yes, there's accountability on his part, but I have no power or control over that. So sitting in anger or pain is only keeping me prisoner. I could be angry at that person who pulled out in front of me and allow that anger to come out and shout at them because they cut me up. Or I could recognise maybe they're on their way to a hospital because they've got an appointment that they're late for. There are so many sides to everything. But when we get caught in a black and white thinking way of justification, we're almost creating excuses. And I don't want to say that lightly because I don't want to say, well, everyone's just making excuses as if it's something people are aware that they're doing and they're doing it on purpose because they're lazy or they don't want to change. Of course we want to change. Of course we want to heal. I know so many people who do. But I also know so many people who don't understand these pitfalls. And this is why I bring an understanding around these pitfalls, because when we justify the reasons why things are the way they are, and we don't realise where that justification comes from, we can believe it's true. When we're angry with our partner because he hasn't picked up his socks or because he hasn't supported us, and we're getting angry and we're shouting, we're smashing things, or we're fighting and we justify it, well, they're an arsehole and they're like this. It doesn't still leave us feeling good, does it? So it doesn't matter how much we justify why we reacted that way. It's not going to change the way they're behaving. We've got to start learning how to deal with it differently. Whether they're the most healthiest person for us. We've got to start healing and understanding why the situations get in the way they are. And that's uncomfortable. But our mind wants to keep us comfortable, doesn't it? Because as a child, so many uncomfortable things potentially happened to us that led us to want to control outcomes. And when we try to control outcomes, we justify that we just like things in order. We just like lists. We just like to know what everyone's doing. We just like to have to, that's just how I am. Well, that's a very limiting belief, isn't it? That's just how I am. There's people that are autistic and ADHD and have amputees who are missing legs and arms, and if they just sat there and said that's how they are, they never would have ever gained anything. They would have just limited themselves their whole life. And there's many reasons as to part of us who is just who we are. Some of us are just natural introverts. That doesn't mean we have to isolate ourselves our whole life. It means we can choose to recognise the times we need to be an introvert, the times that we need to have space, so that we don't spend so much time with others we burn ourselves out, or so much time alone we're isolated. There are people who see their limitations and lean into them because they're scared, and they're people who naturally push their limitations. But there's also the people that are in between, or the people who are scared that could actually realise that if they acknowledge the fact that they're scared, fact that you are in fear. There's nothing scarier than recognizing we have more power than we believe. Because when we recognize we have more power than we believe, we also recognize that there's potentially something we can do with that power. And when we don't know how to use that power, it's scary in itself. So it's like having a gift we don't know how to use. We put it back in the box. The instructions are too gobbledygook. But I'm here to say to you, healing can be a journey of one step at a time. Go onto my YouTube. I've put some videos up about emotional regulation, some videos about somatic therapy, about understanding your emotions. And I'm going to keep putting videos up about how we can start to slowly make some changes. I want you to ask yourself today, what are you justifying in your life? And it may have been an unconscious thought that you just believed was true. You didn't realise it was something that you could change. I didn't. When I justify my things to myself, I didn't realise I could change that and challenge that. I thought that, well, that's just my mind, you know. I was angry, so of course I can justify that. There's some things that we can justify because we know it was what we had to do in that moment. We know we had to express that, or we know that actually we were a little bit angry and we take ownership for that. And there's some things we've got to challenge. Are we over-justifying? Are we allowing the justification to be a safety net so that we don't step out into the uncomfortable places? Healing takes time. Martin Luther King said, do not look at a whole staircase. Take one stair at a time. If you are on a healing journey, acknowledge that it's slow. Acknowledge that there's different facets and parts of it, just like you. You're going to need to learn to lean into the understanding of coming across different videos like this, emotional understanding, emotional regulation, understanding attachment, understanding connection. And I will over time continue to bring different small videos like this. And if anything, I hope it prompts something in you to just do a little research. Sit with yourself, get a pen out, buy a book, commit to yourself. Because we don't deserve to live the life we live, a life of unawareness. And I'm telling you now, we're in another wave. We're in a wave of more people like me who have empowered themselves through their own healing. It makes me emotional, I'm not going to lie. Because I know how much pain I was once in. And I know how much pain so many people are in. And I want to say to you, justification is there protecting you because of the pain you've been through. But it's now keeping you prisoner. Comment underneath if you can relate to this video in any way. I sometimes worry that I overtalk. I sometimes worry that I'm a bit stiff. But just like you guys, I'm going through a healing journey too of so many things. And I'm challenging myself in so many ways, which brings a tear, and I'm allowing myself to feel that. I put off videos because I get scared, because I don't think I'm good enough and worthy enough, and I'm working through that myself. And I just hope by talking about these things, by normalising these things, we are able to become more aware. We're not here to be perfect. We're not here to eradicate human behaviours that we have learned. We're here to acknowledge them, understand them, heal them, change them where we can, and empower ourselves to be a whole version of who we are, unapologetically us. I send you all so much love. Do subscribe to my channel if you feel connected to me. There's meditations that I invite you to do, because changing our energy is just as important as understanding the psychology of human behaviour. Guys, I love you and take care.